Hey everybody, it's Andrew Martin coming to you with a new video on Saturday, February 18th. Happy Saturday, happy February 18th. Here we are in the home stretch of February. We are almost through, and I'm making it in just under the wire with your February energy update for 2017. Many of us are finding ourselves in a very, very strange place, being called to make decisions, being called to proceed, re-encountering old relationships, old situations, old friends, old family members, old triggers, old whatever. And we're not really entirely sure what it is that's going on and how it is that we are supposed to contend with this. I'm going to cover all of that and more in the February 2017 Energy Update video. But first I want to make a quick announcement about the event that I've been hosting for February, the Soul Expansion Series, Untethering from the Emotional Field. Man, these have been such powerful calls. The energy that is coming through in the energy work portions is blowing my mind. It's some of the biggest, most pronounced, most powerful energy that I have ever held and that I have ever run. And it has been amazing and transformative and profound. And I wanted to let you know that there are 2 more dates left in the series. This was a full month series. It's a series of 4 calls. So tomorrow, February 19th, and then the final Sunday, February 26th, from 12 to 2 p.m. West Coast time. It's 2 hours of guided information, of intuitive information, of question and answer, group discussion, and then powerful energy work at the end of the session. You can still purchase all 4 sessions. Even though there's only 2 more live sessions, when you purchase all 4, the full 4-part series, not only do you get access to the remaining dates, but you also get the MP3 of the previous recordings. So in essence, you get all 4 sessions. Even if you've missed the first 2, it's fine. You can still join up. You can also buy each session individually. So you can buy 1 session if you want to. But the beautiful thing about this series, it has been progressive. It has been building upon itself every single week, and the energies are coming in and getting bigger and brighter and creating a new signature for us within our energy fields. And it has been profound and transformational and wonderful. So go to my website, thelightones.com. There's an event tab at the top of the page on the navigation bar. Click that, and then you'll see a link to go to the Eventbrite page where you can purchase all 4 sessions as a package for a reduced rate, or you can buy each session individually if you only want to check out 1. But I'm really thinking that you should buy all 4, because even if you can't make it in person, you still get all 4 MP3s and you still get access to all the energy information. It's amazing, it's wonderful, it's powerful. Trust me when I tell you, you want to sign up for this. I love being able to do these energy, these group sessions and these group work. It is so wonderful and it's mind-blowing and it just makes my heart sing. So I really hope that you'll join us on tomorrow, the 19th, and then the following Sunday on the 26th. So on to the information for the energy update video. I am calling this one the reweaving of the selves. And I know that right now things are a little bit crazy. You know, it feels like all of a sudden we're contending with not only all this new information and new abilities and new level of awareness, but we're also contending with old ideas and old beliefs and old ways that we used to engage and work and, and move through the world. And we're not really sure. It's like this cognitive dissonance of, do I hang on to and live according to what I used to believe or what I've been taught is true, but doesn't really work for me anymore and probably never did? Do I use this old model, or do I create my own rules and proceed in my own way according to what I know and what I believe to be true and what I feel in my gut? Because here's the thing. We know what we're doing. We have, even if we don't understand, and this is the thing, understanding is not required. I know that this goes counter to what so many of us have been taught, that the intellect and the logic and the ego and the mind and that logical, sort of book learning is the king, but it's not. It's really, really not, especially when so much of that information was built upon a false premise to begin with. So we're finding ourselves not really sure, but here's the thing. We know we've done the work. The past, 5 years since 2012 have been profound and transformational and have completely rewritten us inside and out. And now we have the tools and the tricks and the information. We have all the ingredients. We just have to begin to proceed according to what we know to be true and what we believe is real. In many ways, it's like when you first leave home. Think about when you were 18, 19. I mean, I moved to Seattle when I was 18. In 1990, or 19, 18, 19, I moved to Seattle. And for the first time, I was living on my own. For the first time, I was not, living with my parents. And it wasn't like my parents were, super strict. I pretty much could do whatever I wanted. But for the first time, I really was beginning to decide and getting to figure out, do I want to live according to what I've been raised to believe is true? Or am I going to make my own rules? And that's exactly where we are. So it's okay if you're a little unsure. Imagine who you were when you first went to college and when you first moved out or when you first, left home. Or if you're still living at home, imagine who you were when you moved to the basement. I don't know. But you know what I'm saying, right? When you leave the structure of what you were born into, when you leave the collective agreement, whether it was the collective of your family and your lineage or the collective of your town, your state, your country, or your planet, when you leave the collective of what you were born into, a lot of what you initially go through is the dismantling of that. You're taking it apart. You're saying, I don't believe this. When did I agree that this is who I was? Who is this version of me? When did I believe, when did I accept this story is true? When did I accept the lineage of the history of this is what our family does and this is how our family acts and this is who I am? For myself, I'm finding that, when did I decide that to be a gay man meant that I had to do X, Y, and Z? And who decided, as an intuitive or an energy healer or a psychic or whatever it is that you want to call me, who was it that decided that I have to do things in a certain way or that there are models that judge me as right or wrong? So we go through this dismantling process, and that is always an internal process first. You go in and you do the work and you look at your shadow and you crawl, on your hands and knees on broken glass, through the fire, through the muck, through the mud, and you deal with it and you understand it and you unravel it and you open it up and you look at it and you do that self-inquiry work. And you do that deep, really, really, uncomfortable inventory of sitting with yourself and your beliefs and your thoughts and deciding what is true and what is not. And then you learn the tools of how to contend with it. And you learn how to move towards your truth. You book a session with someone like me or somebody else who can help you sort of navigate that world and help you figure it out. And at some point, then you have to begin the process of just living your life. And you begin the process of proceeding. And it's about not only just how do I manage my human experience, but how do I thrive in it? I'm moving to New York in the beginning of April. I've been in Seattle off and on for 27 years. I moved here, in 1990. So this is my last month in my apartment. And it'll be my last month in Seattle. And so what I've decided to do for this last month is to revisit the people and the places that I loved and that, honor them and say thank you to them. So yesterday I had the day off and so I took the bus downtown and went back to where I used to live and just went through some of my old neighborhood, my old haunts, one of my favorite restaurants, one of my favorite bookstores. And I was walking through Volunteer Park, which is a beautiful park. It's one of my favorite places in the world and one of my favorite places in Seattle. And so I was walking down as I left the park because it was a gorgeous day yesterday. I was sitting in the sun, just went into the conservatory to look at these crazy, amazing, beautiful plants. And I was just having a beautiful moment and a beautiful day. So I decided to go walk by some old apartments that I used to live in, and one with my first boyfriend when I was like 19, 20 years old, and go down Broadway, which used to be sort of the gay neighborhood in Seattle, Capitol Hill, because I had so many memories of those places and I just wanted to honor that. And for the first time in 27 years, I've realized that Seattle does not feel like home anymore. I love this city and it will always hold a place. I mean, it's one of the great loves of my life. But it's not home anymore. As I was walking down Broadway and Capitol Hill, I realized, man, so many of the places that I have memories of aren't even here anymore. They've been torn down or they've been turned into a new business. So many of the people that I made those memories with are either dead or they've moved on. They're in another city, or I don't know who, we're not connected anymore. I don't even know where they are, or we just, life goes on, right? And you take you move in separate directions. But what I realized is that the story of who I used to be and the story of who I was even 5 years ago, I'm just not that person anymore. So none of those old beliefs and none of those mechanisms and none of those old tools and understandings and knowings really are relevant anymore. And who am I now? And if I think about my experience for the past year, Since 2012 has been major internal stuff. But the past year, when I moved out to the burbs, this is the first time since I was a kid and lived at home that I have not lived in an urban area that was dense, that I could just walk out my front door and go to the store, go to the gym, go to the park, go to the bookstore, wherever, go to the movies, wherever I wanted to go, or hop on a bus or a train and go. And now I live out in the burbs with nothing. There's a fucking pawn shop, gun shop down the street, a Dairy Queen, a Walmart, a million auto dealerships, a million pot stores, and some grocery stores. And I have been, for this past year, kind of a shut-in. I mean, the past year of my life has been nothing but my work, my practice, building that, and really beginning to sort of redefine who Andrew is. And now I'm re-entering the matrix, and that's where we are. And this is what I talked about in my video for the beginning of the year, for the January, or for the 2017 sort of theme for the year, was magicians in the matrix. We are now re-entering the matrix, and we are free from so many of those old ideas and old limitations. And it's not about how do I just manage my human experience now, but how do I thrive in it? Our humanness is a small part of who we are. If we talk about it on a scale of 1 to 100, we can say it's maybe 10% of who we are. And the rest of it is the expanded self, the multidimensional self, the starseed self, the other aspects of all that we are. And Andrew, our human self, is just this much of it. I was talking with my friend David Manning, who does David Manning energy work. You can find him on YouTube and on Facebook. He's an amazing, wonderful man, and he lives in London. And I'm going to London in June to do some work at the College for Psychic Studies there, and we've become friends over the past few months. And so we were just chatting over Skype, and we were talking about this idea, and he was saying, the humanness is really such a thin veneer over the top of who and what we really are. And I thought that was such a beautiful way to look at it. But here's the thing. Even though the human self is a very small part of it, it's still a crucial part of it. In order to be Andrew, I need a body. In order to be Andrew, the human, I gotta have a human experience. I chose to come here as Andrew and incarnate in this body, in this form, in this way, so that I could be here to do my duty and do the work that I volunteered to do. So my human self is required, and in many ways, our human selves have been on ice for the past couple of years, especially through 2016, because it was not about an externally focused life. It was about getting really clear about what was going on in here. And now, as we are re-entering the matrix, we are rising up and emerging, and we're coming back online, and we're being called back into active duty. We're finding ourselves encountering these very human experiences again. With the fear circus that's happening right now on the planet, but especially in the US with our political situation. And do I let that out there define my experience? And do I buy into the illusion and the fear and all the propaganda that's just being, vomited everywhere? And who even knows which end is up? Do I use that as my barometer and as my compass? Or do I remember that it's always in here? What do I do when I'm confronted with fear now? And how do I proceed knowing what I know? What do I do to honor the needs of my body, knowing what I know? Do I honor what the body is saying for myself? I can't really eat meat anymore. I've been sort of half-stepping it on this vegetarian thing for a couple of years now, and I finally committed and I don't eat meat. I'm not fully vegan yet, but I'm getting there. My body was just rejecting meat. My body was rejecting coffee, so I gave up coffee, which if you've been following me for a while, or if you know me at all personally, it was like the death of a dear friend. Coffee was like, oh my God, I loved coffee, but my body just couldn't handle it anymore. I haven't really exercised much in the past year because of the shoulder thing and a lot of other reasons. I'm not helpless in this situation. I chose not to exercise, but now the body is asserting itself and is saying, this is what I need. So do I honor what I know? And the fact of what I know is that the body has its own intelligence and it has its own requirements, and that the body is required for my human experience. So do I honor what the body is asking for? Do I just plow through full speed ahead and say, fuck you, I'm going to eat a cheeseburger and drink coffee. Fuck you, I'm going to keep working even if you are asking me to go into self-care mode and rest. My mind, am I going to let the ego run the show and say, produce, 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 consume, consume, consume. You got to win, you got to be right, Or am I going to trust what I know? Is that Andrew as an expanded, full version of, all that I am, and the human aspect that presents himself as Andrew? There are very real requirements that the vessel has, and am I going to honor them? So How do I honor the needs of my body now, knowing what I know? Where is my inner child in this, knowing what I know now? You know, I haven't really had a social life for the past couple of years. And now I'm moving back to New York and I'm excited to have a social life again. But what does that look like? And how do I honor my need for downtime and quiet and sort of, to recharge myself? And how do I weave in the requirements of my practice with a social life and a love life and all of that? What is important to me now? What do I stand for? What do I rise up for? Am I going to be one of the people that marches in a protest? Am I going to, send money to the ACLU or Planned Parenthood or whatever? So who am I when I'm confronted with illusion? We're finding this with family relationships and a lot of really old friendships that, these long-term relationships in our lives, many of these people are still deeply in illusion of fear and anger and doubt and anxiety. And how do I proceed now when I'm engaging with these people that I love very much, but I just see them in, sort of hypnotized by the fear circus? What do I say? What do I do? Do I speak up or do I stay silent? Do I just witness them and give them space, or do I try to, give them insight or counseling or whatever? And there's no right or wrong. This is the point. It is the reweaving of the selves. This is the waking up and the we're coming back online now. And our human self is necessary for this experience. And how do we proceed and engage and not just manage our experience, but thrive in it? We're being called to make decisions. We're being called to make choices. I have ideas of what I want to do in New York, but I have no real idea of how it's going to proceed and how it's going to play out. And is that okay? Do I need a guarantee? Do I need the why before I make a choice and move forward? Or do I trust this and say, no, I am guiding myself. I am always moving in the direction of my highest expression. And can I fully commit and sort of marry myself to the work that I came here to do? I had a reading with a dear friend the other day, and she was saying, you're kind of like a nun at this point. You can't pretend anymore. You can't half-step it. You need to fully commit. You need to stake your claim. And what you came to do here was in service of humanity. You came to help sort of recreate the world and the collective through your work. And this is what all of us in some way are doing. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you have an intuitive practice, if you're a healer, if you're a stay-at-home mom, if you work at Starbucks, if you work in as a CEO. It's not what you do. It's how do you do it? How do you proceed knowing the truth of who you are? How do you reweave all of the aspects of who you are and let the old stuff that doesn't serve you anymore show up? This is so much of what we're talking about in these soul expansion calls, the untethering from the emotional field. Your emotional experience is not bad or good, but freedom comes from when you have the ability to freely move in and out of your emotional experience. And remember that you are not the victim of it. You are not bound by it, because ultimately your emotions are the tools for your creations, but they're not real in the sense that they continue on, right? Once we exit the human experience, the human emotions are no longer relevant. So how do I proceed knowing that I am more than just Andrew? Knowing that, the other 90% of me is not what you see, but honoring the fact that all that I am and all that is has chosen this moment right now to focus itself through my eyes and through my experience. So how do we walk that fine line between knowing the truth of who we are, which is infinite and eternal, and that when Andrew's body gives out and turns to dust, then the rest of, then I go back to all that I am and I'm reunited with all of that. But also knowing that while in this human form, I have a lot of work to do. And I also want to have fun and I want to have a great experience. And what does that mean? What is important? What is valuable? What is real for me? What is true for me? And this is what we're all being called to do. Are we going to live according to what we've been raised to believe is real and true, or are we going to make our own rules? We are seeing this right now playing out on the collective stage. Do we believe that our political system can still work? Do we believe that institutions like religion and, corporations and governments and systems that have been, created to control, do we need them? Do we want them? Can they even be fixed, or should we just let them all crumble and fall? We have been given as a collective that when we are born into the collective, there are a set of beliefs and rules and systems and regulations and institutions that are already in place. And many of us just sort of proceed with our eyes closed on cruise control, saying, nope, it's all good. I'm just going to do what I'm told, and I'm going to work until I'm half dead, and then I can be happy at 5 p.m. or on the weekends or when I retire. Or I can wake up and begin to see that I am the one that commands my experience. That I am the one that is the avatar for all that is. And I get to decide what it is that I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it and how it's going to feel and how I'm going to feel about it and what is my, journey going to be about. And it's not, and am I able to, surrender the destination and just trust that I'm moving, and that as long as I'm present and in the moment and aware and, whatever it is, that I'm going to be fine, that it's always going to end up okay, because really none of it's real. It's all an illusion. The only reason that Source ever creates anything is because it seeks expansion through experience. So how do I know all of that, the big truth with the capital T, and let it inform me in my human experience? And, the divine announcing itself as Andrew, to use Paul Selig's guide's quote. So nobody else has the answers for us. Nobody outside us can define our experience unless we decide that they can. What do we do now with our newfound freedom? I think of who I was when I was 18 and I moved here right out of high school. Woo! Hide your husbands. I went crazy. I went crazy with all of my freedom, and I had a blast, and I fucked up a lot of things, and I made a lot of choices that I look back now and I think, oh my God, if I ever had a kid, I would lock him in a cage until he was 40, because I know what I was doing when I was, 18, 19, 20. I mean, I know what I was doing up until, I was 39. So this is the point, is we have this newfound freedom now. We are re-entering the matrix. The 2016 restriction that forced us to really sit with ourselves and get real and true, and to release those old ideas and those old identities and the things that didn't serve us anymore. So are you going to honor the impulse that tells you all you need to do is trust? Trust yourself. Trust how you feel. Trust what you know. You've got this. You are an eternal, ancient soul that has done this countless times, and the only reason that you keep coming back is for love. Because we're in service of love. And that's what we are. And so that's why we come back. So understanding that there will be no guarantees. And there's no guarantee of understanding. There's no guarantee of a why, but can you proceed anyway? Because the why isn't owed to you. The understanding isn't owed to you. You're owed nothing. You are owed nothing but an opportunity. That's what you have in every lifetime, is an opportunity. And you have one right now. And what are you going to do with it? And what I've been contending with in my own way for my own work is realizing over the past couple of weeks that, wow, within me is still this desperate need for approval. Growing up, how I grew up and where I grew up and when I grew up, I really created this need for approval, was massive within me. And even through all the work that I've done and all the layers that I've peeled off, a lot of it has been whittling away at this part of me that is so desperate for the approval of others, for, external validation. But really realizing recently how much it was still active and how I didn't realize it. I didn't realize how much the approval of others, and not just the people in my life, my family and my friends, but when I was a kid growing up in the gay community, just being so desperate for approval, which manifested itself in my sexual compulsion, saying, well, if having sex with someone is the only way that I can get approval from them, well, at least that's one way. But even with my work and my practice, realizing that the shifts that I am making as I'm moving into this new group work and getting ready to raise my rates and expand into other things and do more group work, that very well may alienate a lot of the people that have been, sort of followers and have been very close to what I do. And I have to be okay with that. I have to be okay that what I share may not resonate with you. I have to be okay that I'm going to get those thumbs down votes. I have to be okay that, some months I may get 20,000 views and the next month I may only get 5,000. And the point of sharing this with you is to understand that, the message that came through for me personally, through my, work with my guidance and with myself, was that the need for approval is the death of truth. You can't hold them both at the same time. I cannot be totally honest with you and share the message that I have for you, whether it's a one-on-one or a group session or through this work or even just my relationships, my personal relationships. If I am so desperate for the approval of another, I can never be honest with them. You know, I talked about this on my blog. I posted something, a post called The Current Eclipse Corridor. And I talked a little bit about this. So you can go to my blog and read the post there. But even as, you know, the new leaders are rising in the spiritual community, you know, and we're rising up and we're emerging and we're coming back online, we are here to rattle cages and to bust down paradigms and dogma. And there's a lot of paradigms and dogma even within the spiritual community. You know, the truth is always the truth, but the way that it is accessed and presented and the way that we work with it is changing. And we have to be okay with proceeding with these new ideas and these new modalities and these new understandings of how we work with this energy. We have to be okay with not always getting the approval of the existing paradigm or the existing structure, the existing, you know, construct. We have to be, because we did not come here for approval. Why on earth? And I'm not just talking about the spiritual community because I don't think it's a toxic, broken thing. But when I look at the world at large, when we look at the world at large, there's a lot of toxic, broken situations happening. And why on earth would I wait for the approval of this toxic, broken thing for me to proceed? I don't require that. But for me, this has been a really big revelation, and it's so terrifying to know that not everyone's going to like me, and that's okay. And that my inner child, you know, that this part of me that is so terrified that someone's not going to like him or someone's going to reject him or someone's not going to accept him, to be okay with that. To understand that fear very well may be an option that is present, and it comes and it sort of rears its head and, you know, gnashes its teeth and snarls in my face, but I can be okay with that. So who are we now? Who are we when we're confronted with these things? How do we proceed? What do we choose? Are we going to believe what we have been told is the truth and what the collective has built for us? Or are we going to say, you know what? None of this is okay. And I have other ideas. And I don't really care if you understand them. I don't care if you approve of them. I'm going to proceed and do my thing. And if you're with me, awesome. If not, then go do your thing. But it is the reweaving of the selves. It is time for us to come back online and emerge and just remember who you were that first time that you stepped out on your own, free from your family and your parents and those, you know, those comfort zones and those, you know, stable structures. Who are you now? And does any of who you were even still have a place? Is it still relevant? Is it still necessary? And is it still true? So how do you honor that? And that's where you are. And that's your job. Nobody outside of you can tell you. You know, in my own work, I find myself telling this to people all the time is you just got to figure it out. I can help guide you to the truth. I can show you the path. I can show you the door. I can give you the tools to get there. But I can't tell you if it's right or wrong. You got to do it. I'm not a fortune teller. I'm not a fortune teller. That's not what I came here to do. I came here to help you remember how powerful you really are. So that's it, my friends. That's it for the rest of February. And I have a feeling it's going to be sort of a common theme that we're seeing, you know, in many ways show itself throughout the rest of the year, because this eclipse corridor that started last weekend, and that is, you know, we have 2 eclipses in February, the one last weekend, and at the end of the month we have another one. But this is also a much larger 6-month passage that culminates with 2 eclipses in August. And this is what we're going to see playing out on the world stage, is the things that we do not support anymore, that just aren't built on truth. They're crumbling, and we got to let them crumble. And we get to decide for ourselves, how do we engage with that? What do we do when we encounter it? And how do we proceed trusting this, even when everything outside may be telling you to just run and hide? So that's it. Go to my website. You can click on the sessions button to book a session with me and to read more about what I do and how I work. Go to the events thing at the top, the events tab, so you can sign up for the remaining 2 dates for the Soul Expansion series. It's so awesome. Follow me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram, subscribe below. Please share me with all of your communities, your friends, and anybody that you think would benefit from this information. As always, I thank you for watching. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.